Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Skip Alzheimer, and this is the avgeeks lunchtime streaming show. And we just watched some stock footage from Cornet Films, which was silent, beautiful Kodachrome, and we haven't a lick of an idea where any of this takes place. There's no documentation on the can beyond the three-letter code ATO. At some point, I hope to open a box and suddenly find a bunch of lists of what's on what reel, etc., etc. But I haven't found it yet, so there you go. Maybe at one point I'll discover it. Anyways, we watch old 16mm films, and that was something that we scanned on another machine. But I've got this machine set up right now, Telecine, to show you a film. There's a couple of films in the Health or Healthwise series. Some nutty ones from the 70s, including Toothache of a Clown and Dirt Witch Cleans Up. And so I'm always finding these films and trying to see if they're part of that 70s series. And unfortunately, some are from the 80s. And this is Ames versus Encyclopedia Britannica. Hopefully this doesn't have puppets on it. So here we go. Here's Health, our picture of ourselves.
All of us have feelings about ourselves, ideas of what kind of person we are. We may not think about it very often, but each one of us has a picture of himself in his own mind. If we think we're a good person, we like ourselves. But if we don't think we're a good person, we usually feel unhappy.
All right, who would like to solve this problem? Let's see. Melissa, would you like to try it?
Lots of different things can affect the picture we have of ourselves. One of those things is what other people think about us.
Correct. There. Very good, Melissa.
When people tell us we've done a good job, it pleases us. We like to be complimented, and we feel good about ourselves when we are.
What's the matter with you, lad? You keep on missing the ball, you're never going to be any good.
But when someone tells us we're not doing very well, we feel bad. We often don't even want to go on with what we're doing. When we feel good about ourselves, we're eager to keep doing things. Life seems very nice. But when someone tells us we're not doing well, we may not have such a good picture of ourselves. Life may not seem to be much fun anymore. If we feel unhappy or discouraged, it may be hard to get back into the swing of things and act the way we usually do. We have to remember that most of our problems will go away in a little while. Soon, something nice happens to us, and we begin to feel better about ourselves. The picture we have of ourselves always has both good and bad things in it.
Melissa? Very good.
When Melissa did well at school today, she felt good about herself.
From the sun. You can have a roll. Oh, Melissa!
But tonight, she had an accident at the dinner table. Little unpleasant things like this happen to all of us, and for a while they can make us feel bad. Here, Melissa felt just as bad as Lance did when his friend yelled at him for missing the ball.
Don't worry about it. We'll get it up together.
She knows that even though she always tries to do her best, sometimes things go wrong.
Sit that down
If we always try to do our best, it will help us to have a better picture of ourselves.
It's okay, huh? Yeah, there. See?
Denise Walter's father promised to take her on a trip to visit her grandparents on Saturday. She's been looking forward to it all week long while Mr. Walters was away on a business trip. Friday afternoon, Denise got out all the things she needed for the trip and spread them out so she could pack.
Denise.
Oh, which shirt shall I wear?
Daddy just phoned Denise. He's had some car trouble. He won't be home till tomorrow, so he won't be able to take you after all.
You mean we can't go on the trip?
I'm afraid not, honey. Daddy's awfully sorry, honey. And he promises he'll take you on another trip just as soon as he can.
Denise was very disappointed. A minute or two earlier, she'd been happy. But now, all the fun seemed to have gone out of her life. Denise has had disappointments before in other things, and she'll have them again. That's true for all of us. We have to learn how to handle disappointments, even though they're not our fault. It often takes time to get over them. We can help ourselves feel better by finding something else to do. Denise remembered that her paints were always fun to play with. She thought painting might make her feel better. It wasn't quite as much fun as a trip, but it was a lot better than just lying around feeling unhappy. It was the dress rehearsal of the school play. Everything had to be just right for the big show the next day.
And Sharon, you should be a little happier to see him when he comes in, okay? Let's try.
So far, it was going very well. The teacher, Mr. Russo, was quite pleased.
Thank you, my mother made it.
Hi, ma'am. That's a mighty pretty dress you have on.
Thank you, my mother made it.
By the way, where do you live?
But then, Sharon forgot her lines.
What's your name?
All right, fellas, that's not nice.
It's Ramona Kinsey, dummy.
All right, Andy, that's enough of that. Mona?
Sharon was very embarrassed. She'd known her lines perfectly before everyone else. But this time, she forgot. She was so upset she almost cried. All of us get embarrassed now and then. We have to think about our good points to keep a happy picture of ourselves.
Someone getting angry at you just because you made a little mistake.
Sharon knew she was smart, and she made up her mind to get everything right the next time.
I think I'm ready now.
Good. Let's try it again, all right?
Hi, ma'am. That's a mighty pretty dress you have on.
Thank you, my mother made it.
Where do you live?
Right up that hill.
What's your name?
Ramona Kinsey, what's yours?
Paul doesn't really expect he'll ever be able to dive that well, but he still wants to learn how to dive. He knows how to swim, of course, and he likes the water, but diving in head first is a lot different from jumping in feet first. This is something new. It's a little scary. Even though he's afraid, he's willing to try. In the past, when he's made mistakes doing something, he learned from his mistakes. He feels good about himself. He's sure that sooner or later, he'll learn to dive pretty well. When we have a good picture of ourselves, we usually feel confident enough to try new things. And even if we're not perfect at first, we want to keep on trying. The way we feel about ourselves affects just about everything we do. We do things better when we have a good picture of ourselves. Do you know how to keep a good picture of yourself? Well, for one thing, don't believe everything people say about you.
What's the matter with you, lad? You keep on missing the ball. You're never going to be any good.
Ramona Kinsey, dummy.
When you feel unhappy, try to think about nice, pleasant things that have happened to you. You'll feel better. Most unhappy times don't last very long anyway. If you're disappointed in some way, get busy and do something else. You'll find your disappointment will soon go away. When something embarrasses you, have confidence in yourself. And if you're not afraid to try again, you'll find the embarrassment bothers you a lot less.
I think I'm ready now.
Remember, everybody feels unhappy now and then, and everybody feels disappointed or embarrassed once in a while, too.
Oh, Melissa!
But if you keep a good picture of yourself, you'll get over these feelings faster. When you feel sure of yourself, you're willing to try new things, new adventures. If you have a good picture of yourself, the future has no limits.
So it's all about self-image and self-esteem. That's an interesting film. I think others in this series talk about diet and brushing your teeth and stuff like that, and that one is, it's interesting. All right, that's why we watch these films. I have not seen that one before, so there you go. This next film I have seen before, and it's really good, but I should caution that when I posted it on YouTube, a lot of people were really depressed when they watched the film, or just really had a narrow view of it. Wow, what an amazing setup that is. So this is called Communicating with Deaf-Blind People, and we've shown other films about how to work with people who are deaf or blind, in normal, everyday situations. A great film was What to Do When You See a Blind Person. And this one is great because it really... So we're talking about people that are similar to what Helen Keller had, where she didn't have sight, she couldn't hear. And if you saw The Miracle Worker or read it, you'd know that she eventually had a breakthrough. And so this film is kind of talks about the techniques of, like, how do you talk with someone? How do you communicate with somebody who is deaf and blind? Because they certainly can communicate using touch. So this film is great in that way. And the other thing that makes this film great is it's narrated by Alexander Scourby. And if you don't know who that is, when you listen to it, you'll go like, I know that voice. So here it is, Communicating with Deaf-Blind People.
Narrated by Alexander Scourby. Script and demonstration by Annette B. Dinsmore, Program Specialist in Services for the Deaf-Blind, American Foundation for the Blind.
Have you ever known a person who is deaf as well as blind? My work has brought me into contact with many of them. Contacts which have been extremely enjoyable. I travel all over the country as a resource person to counselors, caseworkers, and teachers whose responsibility it is to serve deaf-blind people. In the total population of blind persons, the proportion of those who are deaf-blind is fortunately low. They are widely scattered geographically, and for this very reason, professional workers, as well as the family, friends, and people in the community, must learn how to help a deaf-blind person, and above all must learn how to talk directly to him. This is the first step and the most important step in offering service to him. Communication. You and I take ordinary conversation for granted. Someone who is both deaf and blind cannot do this, but he can learn to understand you by using one or more of various methods of communication. And it is possible for him to take his rightful place among his family, friends, and other associates, even strangers. In this film, you will see 5 different methods of communication, and you will meet 6 deaf-blind people. You will see them conversing, one using printing in the palm, one the alphabet glove, 2 will be talking together with the one-hand manual alphabet, and another will be using a special device, the teletouch. The last shown will be the vibration method. These are the most commonly used methods in this country. There are others which we have not included here.
Thank you, Miss Dinsmore. Larry lost his sight and hearing in his early teens, but he still has a memory of print letters. Therefore, you can talk to him by printing in the palm of his hand. This method can be used almost universally because most people know how to print. Using your index finger as if it were a pencil, print capital letters in his hand with simple strokes, such as A, L, S, and E. Make each letter as large as the size of his palm allows. With a little practice, he will be able to follow your conversation easily. If he misunderstands a letter, take his finger as if it were a pencil and print the letter on the table in front of him. When he gets it right, repeat it in the palm of his hand. Sometimes Larry will anticipate a word or a whole sentence. When this happens, you can save a lot of time by giving him a quick signal for yes, and then going on with the following sentence. On the other hand, if he's wrong in a word or sentence he anticipates, give him the signal for no, and spell it out carefully. In other words, this is yes, and this is no. Sometimes you may make a mistake yourself, and then you can rub it out. This always brings a smile.
Would you like coffee?
Yes, thank you.
How do you take it?
I like it back.
Good.
Almost everyone uses gloves of one sort or another for various useful or decorative purposes. But the glove which may be new to you in its purpose and appearance is the alphabet glove. The alphabet glove must be carefully marked while it is on the hand of the user so that the letters fall exactly on the ends of the fingers, the joints, and the palm. The numbers are marked on the back of the glove, on the nails, and at the first knuckles. Marion has worn one of these gloves for years. She she was blind from early childhood. At 20, when she lost her hearing too, she preferred the glove for communication. She had to memorize these letter positions, but they soon became second nature to her. Now she can carry on a rapid conversation with anyone who can see, provided they can spell. Words and sentences are spelled out by touching the letters in succession. H, E, L, L, O. And you can develop with practice a touch as if playing the piano. Just as with printing in the palm, a quick signal for yes or for no can save time and make it unnecessary to spell out words when Marion anticipates them.
My
My
hobby
hobby
is
is
music.
music. Ah,
What
what
is...
is... What is my hobby?
Yes.
I have several. My favorites are social dancing, but not the twist, and clay modeling.
Did
Did
you
I make this fit?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
all
Ah,
by
by
your
self.
self? Yes.
All by myself.
Yes.
Well, Bob, I started to make it all by myself. But I made the mistake of taking it out to the park, you know, to work in the fish air. As I was working on the fish, many people sat on the bench beside me. And each had a different idea as to how a fish should look. So when I reached home, I had a whale with long ears. Thank goodness the ears fell off. Too many kibitzes.
Right.
This is the one-hand manual alphabet. It has been used for years by deaf people in this country and parts of Europe. Ben and Alice are having an animated conversation. No one can tell what they're talking about because neither utters a sound. They've never learned speech. Each was born deaf and lost sight in adult life. We suspect that Ben is telling Alice a joke of some sort. For deaf-blind people, the one-hand manual alphabet is a rapid method of communication. They must, of course, learn to read it by touch, since they cannot see the position of the fingers. Of the 5 different methods of communication shown in this film, this one-hand manual alphabet is the only one which requires learning on the part of the speaker. If you want to use this alphabet, you must learn the position of the fingers in making each letter. A, B, C, D, etc. In spelling words, move your fingers smoothly from one letter to the next without extraneous movements. V, hand, cat, dog. Wiggly fingers make fuzzy letters. For example, the letter I with the thumb up turns into Y. The deaf-blind person places his hand over yours and reads the words by following the movements of your fingers. Miss Dinsmore must read Ben's and Alice's spelling by touch, too, because she is blind also. Ben has a light touch on Miss Dinsmore's hand, and so does Alice. She can say the same thing to both of them at once. For example, What do you want for lunch? But she cannot read their answers back at the same time, or she will get mixed up. And now, off to lunch. The Teletouch is a device developed by the American Foundation for the Blind with which you can talk to a deaf-blind person by means of Braille, even though you yourself know nothing about Braille. John lost his sight when he had just finished school and his hearing a few years later. He has learned to read the Teletouch rapidly. For better viewing, we are removing the cover. The Teletouch is a small portable machine with a typewriter keyboard on one side and a single Braille cell on the other. A plate with 6 holes through which metal dots are raised in various combinations. When you press a letter on the keyboard, the corresponding Braille character appears in the cell. A, G, L, W. John places his finger on the cell to read the Braille letters. Use a legato touch, pressing each letter rather than striking it, holding on to each letter in a given word until you press the following letter, such as the word snow. S-N-O-W. A slight pause between words makes it possible for John to understand you rapidly.
Can you use the Teletouch with anyone?
Yes, even with a child, but the individual must familiarize himself with the sender's touch and the keyboard. This differs as penmanship does, and as soon as he becomes familiar with it, the deaf-blind person can read more quickly and easily.
Oh, I see. Everyone is different.
On each side of the space bar are 3 blank keys. These 6 keys can be used by anyone who knows Braille to make many more characters than the 26 letters. These save time and increase speed. Sensitive fingertips, highly trained, can understand the speech of others through touch. The thumb rests on the lips, while the 4 fingers spread out across the cheek and jaw to catch every movement and vibration. Carol recognizes a friend by a familiar bracelet and ring and shows delight in the contact. She quickly looks her visitor over to check earrings, hairdo, dress. Carol lost her sight and hearing when she was not quite 2 years old, just about the same age Helen Keller was when she became both deaf and blind. When Carol was old enough, she entered a department for deaf-blind children in a school for the blind. There she was taught to speak, to understand the meaning of words, and to understand the world around her. Gradually, she mastered the language of this world and was able to speak it and also to read it and write it in Braille. As her vocabulary, she increased her skill in reading the spoken word by touch, so that when she finished school, she was well prepared to take her place in her family and social group. A genuine interest in others is contagious, and she is accepted warmly by all who know her. Now let's tune in to the conversation.
Did you have a nice birthday party?
Did I had a birthday and a friend.
Good. How many people came?
How many people came? 10 people came.
Oh, and what did you wear?
What did I wear? I said, Annie, yellow, dress, and green shoes.
A new yellow dress and green shoes. That sounds very pretty.
It sounds pretty. Thanks.
Well, you're welcome indeed.
You have seen 5 of the most commonly used means of communication in the United States. To use several methods, and this enables them to converse with a variety of people and to develop broader and more effective relationships. The number of persons in our population who are both deaf and blind is relatively small, and they are widely scattered. They urgently need your understanding, and communication is the key. When you have the opportunity, talk directly with a deaf-blind person. You will find that this experience will give both of you real satisfaction and pleasure. Lewis Hoskins, Marion, Geraldine Lawhorn, Alice, Mary Gilmore, Ben, Enio Struzzi, John, Sam Chermak, Carol, Carmela Otero. Consultant in Education, American Foundation for the Blind, Robert A. Bowers. Cinematographer, John R. McCrory, Jr. Producer and Director, Clarence Schmidt. American Foundation for the Blind, 15 West 16th Street, New York, New York. The End. A Spot Film production.
So Alexander Scorby was reading the credits, and this is because this film would be for blind people as well, to watch, to learn. A fascinating film. You know, like I said, most of the comments on YouTube when I posted this were like, I don't know, I don't, if I was in that situation, I'd kill myself, blah, 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 blah. You know, and so it's a lot of knee-jerk responses, and it's also probably a bunch of 12-year-olds who are posting that. So people who have not really thought through situations. So, yeah, I think it's a fascinating film. I like to learn a lot about how people with these disabilities, or what we consider to be disabilities, how they work, how they live in a world where with people who have sight and with people who can hear, just because there's ways to do it. And certainly you have the two people communicating without making any sounds, and that's a world that, and Scorby's like, I think she's telling her a joke. So it's a wonderful world. When I worked at the National AIDS Hotline for a couple of years, there was a TTY deaf line that was specifically for people who use TTY to communicate, so deaf people. And it was staffed by deaf people because that community had its own language, for the most part. Even though they would type out words, they would say things in ways that if someone spoke, you wouldn't say it the same way. So very similar to how texting goes, where people come up with shortcuts and ways to communicate with texting. TTY was the same thing. So really kind of fascinating. All right, so this film is, I have not seen this. This is an Encyclopedia Britannica film about light science. It says, light science, you can do it. So I don't know, this is probably a lot of experiments for kids. So I always like that. I like watching experiments for kids, especially if they go into the realm of fun tricks you can play on your friends using science concepts. So here it is.
Magic. This girl's head seems to have come loose from her body. How can this be? Looking behind the scene, we can see that it's a very simple trick. The magician can make us see what he wants us to see by using a mirror and his knowledge of the properties of light. One of the properties of light is that it always travels in a straight line, unless something makes it change direction. It's easy to see light coming directly from a source to your eye. But trying to bend light around a corner doesn't work too well. Can we prove that light usually travels in a straight line? Try this experiment. With a ruler, make a straight line along the light beam. As long as the holes are lined up, the light passes through with no problem. If we move the holes away from the straight line, the light won't bend itself through the holes. But are there ways to change the direction of light? Let's pretend that these three balls are part of a light beam. As the balls travel down the board, they meet a smooth, straight surface. Notice that they all change direction the same way. No matter how many times we repeat this experiment, the balls bounce off in the same predictable direction. Now let's try the balls on a rough, uneven surface. They seem to go off in all directions. Every time we do the experiment, they behave differently. Will light behave the same way the balls did? Let's try bouncing a light beam off this straight-surfaced glass. The pattern of the light beam bounces off the glass and onto the wall in a regular, predictable way. If we substitute a crumpled, irregular surface for the smooth one, something different seems to happen. All we see is a fuzzy glow of light on the wall, not a predictable pattern. In general, we can say that smooth surfaces like this glass are good reflectors, and that irregular surfaces are poor reflectors. There is something else that is very predictable about reflected light. A mirror and a protractor will help us see what it is. By measuring the angle between the mirror and the light beam striking it, we notice a curious fact. This angle is identical to the angle between the mirror and the reflected light beam. No matter how we change the first angle, the second will always equal it. But there are other predictable properties of light. A mirror is normally what we think of when speaking of reflected surfaces. We can observe that our image seems to be standing behind the mirror. The reflecting rays of light are all coming back to us as if they were from the same size person behind the mirror. In fact, it appears to be the same distance from the mirror to the image as from us to the mirror. There is one thing different about our image in the mirror, however. Everything seems to be backwards. This is a very handy property of reflecting light. If we work it right, this secret code writing system will allow us to send messages that most people can't decode. But not all reflective surfaces create normal sizes and shapes. The two sides of this spoon seem to create completely different images. Why is this? A curved shape to a mirror seems to create this strange image. If we bend the mirror outwards, the image becomes very small. The curved surface makes it appear that the rays of light are coming from a smaller person. We call this kind of mirror a convex mirror. On the other hand, bending the mirror inward creates a different image. This concave mirror is concentrating the rays of light in front of the mirror. At some point, these rays meet in one spot. We call this spot the focal point. When the rays pass the focal point, the image is formed upside down. There is another way that light can change direction. If we shine a strong beam of light through this milky water, we can make a very interesting observation. Where the beam of light leaves the air and enters the water, it bends very noticeably. Think of the light beam as having a certain width. As the beam hits the water at an angle, one side slows down sooner. This causes the beam of light to bend toward the surface of the water. The opposite effect happens when the beam leaves the water and speeds up in the air. The side leaving first speeds up sooner and bends the light away from the surface of the water. This type of bending is called refraction. Even a very small drop of water can cause strange bendings of light. The refraction, or bending of light through this water drop, focuses the light into the center of the white spot. Notice that the area where the rays of light are no longer striking has gone black. Light passing back through our water drop also does a very unique thing. Very small print can suddenly become very large. Pieces of glass that refract light and change the size of images are called lenses. Lenses not only make things bigger and smaller, but they also make things clear or fuzzy. Using a lens, a light, and a screen, we can change the focus of a projected image. Move the lens closer to the light. Now move the screen so that the image is sharp again. Measure the distance between the light and the lens and screen. Try this several times. You will notice that as the lens gets closer to the light, you have to move the screen further away to keep the image focused. This property of lenses is very important to many people. For example, some of you may have had trouble seeing things close up, but you can see things far away. This means you are far-sighted. For the normal eye, images are sharply focused on the retina. However, if you are far-sighted, your retina is too close to your natural lens, and you'll have trouble focusing an image. Glasses or contacts made of convex lenses help concentrate the light and move the image forward so it focuses on the retina. Other people can see things close up, while things at a distance won't focus. These people are nearsighted. Again, the shape of the eye is the problem. Nearsighted people have retinas that are too far from their natural lenses, and images are hard to focus. Concave lenses that spread the light out will help focus the image onto the retina. magic. Maybe magicians can still play tricks on us, but now that we understand reflection and refraction, lenses and mirrors, now that we understand the properties of light, maybe things will be just a little bit clearer.
It's so weird to see a film that's made in the 80s, like after I went to college. It feels different to me. I think I have a friend, mentor, who's Rick Prelinger, and he doesn't like films from the 70s and 80s because I don't think he grew up with them, and I think I feel the same way. Like films after I left high school and I was in college don't feel right. They just don't resonate. So, and I don't have a nostalgia for them because I didn't experience being in school during that time. Whereas I know that some of the younger folks definitely have a nostalgia for that, so I have to be aware of that. Magnifying glasses. I am sure that I have burnt little things in my eyes having used magnifying glasses to concentrate light to burn things. Unfortunately, ants. But also paper, somebody's shoe, my hand, a variety of things. So magnifying glasses are great, but they're also problematic. Speaking of problematic, let me just say thank you, William, for the coffee, and Johan for the coffee. One way you can say that you like AV Geeks is by buying us coffee. Another way is you can hit like, subscribe, notifications, there's a bell, I don't know, there's lots of different things. I've been watching a lot of podcasts on YouTube, and there's this spiel that they say at the end. And I'm assuming that you do too, so maybe you know what that spiel is, so you can just go ahead and do whatever it is that they say that you want to do. You can also go to avgeeks.com. We have thousands of other films and videos online, and also shows. I think almost all the shows that we've done since mid-March 2020 are on there. And then also you can buy DVDs there. So, this next film, I've been wanting to show this for a long time, but it has copyrighted music in it, popular copyrighted music in it, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to play it, and I'm going to try to mute it appropriately, but if I get kicked off, then I get kicked off, and it's so great. So it's called Pop Show. It was made in the 60s. It features someone who was before they were celebrity in it. It also features some Rolling Stones music that I'm going to try to mute out because it's not throughout the entire film. So we'll see how this goes. This is almost like a challenge. And so if I lose you on Facebook or YouTube, you can always go to Twitch. But if I don't see you, everybody have a good weekend. And but I'm sure I'll come back. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, are we ready? We ready to try this? All right, here we go. Here goes nothing. All right. Yay, we did it! I mean, I'm sure that the hammer's going to come down later as the files get processed. But we did it. You guys watched it. Yay. And some eagle eyes out there spotted that the woman who was drinking all the products is Gloria Steinem. This is before Gloria, she was a young journalist, and this is before she did a stint as a Playboy bunny for an article. And this is before her women's lib and women's movement stuff. And I think she was friends with the filmmaker. And I remember when I was watching this the first time, I was like, huh, that looks like Gloria Steinem. And then I did some research, and sure enough, there it was. So, I had a friend who was, Gloria spoke locally in Raleigh, and I had a friend who was going to go see her speak, and I was like, oh, here, give her this DVD. But I don't think it ever worked out. I think that the line was too long to speak with her. So, anyways, happy Friday. Everybody have a good rest of your weekend. We'll be back next week. I should say tomorrow, actually, on YouTube, Found Footage Festival, they do something called the Saturday Morning Cartoons, and I'm going to be on there. I think it premieres at 10 or 11, and I'll be talking about Sugar Crisp cereal and the history of Sugar Bear, which kind of tells the history of pre-sweetened sugar cereals in American culture. And yeah, they're funny guys. You've seen them. So you can certainly see them tomorrow, or they put it on. They premiere it tomorrow on YouTube, but then they keep it up. So you're more than welcome to check it out. Otherwise, I'll see you on Monday. Everybody have a good rest of your day. What am I doing? As always, please rewind and love each other, and take care, and I will see you soon.